Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sundays at 7. Me and my love, my doggy here, are excited to be on. I wanted to start by thanking everybody for all the support I got this week. I had my song that I co-wrote with Lisa Matazza being shown live at a car show, and I had a lot of people from Facebook show up and a lot of support, like 100 likes, I think, or more. And it was really nice to see. And the song is about unity, so I really hope that people are listening to it, sharing it. It's One Nation's Heart. If you want to find it really easy, go to hashtag One Nation's Heart on Facebook. And it's also on YouTube, but basically it's been spread around on Facebook a lot. So today I'm going to talk about love and forgiveness. And I wrote a post on Facebook this week. I'd like to read it because it's an excerpt from my book, and there was I do sometimes get people challenging what I say, which is great because I love the idea that people are actually reading. I love the fact that they're able to come to me and talk to me about the way they think, and I love to be able to come back to the person with an explanation. This maybe was mistaken by certain people, but it is really just a note from our soul to our human self. And I did that because our souls are always asking us to do the right thing, the best thing, the good thing. And that's not to say that love and forgiveness is the right thing to do because for the other person. It's the right thing to do for ourselves, because not forgiving leaves us chained to the other person or the event or whatever it is. So let me read it first while people are coming on, and then we'll rip it apart. And if you want to contact me to ask questions, please do so. I will ask, though, that when you come on, unless you have something to ask, some people come on and they come on again and again and again and again. And Facebook doesn't allow me to scroll and see all of the posts. It only gives me a tiny bit at a time. So I can't see people who are asking questions if someone's coming on and like constantly saying something. So I just wondered if maybe we can put it all on one kind of post instead of like many posts. Okay. All right, here it is. Note to my human self. Some people believe that forgiveness has rules, that there are crimes against the body and heart that warrant a lifetime worth of anger and hatred. From a human standpoint, that may be true. But together, we are more than human. Believe that forgiveness, just like love, has no boundaries that are imposed. There is never a good reason not to forgive. There is just unwillingness. It is your prerogative to live with unforgiveness, but that would mean we would be living in obedience to it and in pain and anger from it. These are emotions that grip the throat and harden the heart. I don't want this to affect your life and happiness forever. And whether they, the people we're trying to forgive, deserve forgiveness or not, we do. Choose forgiveness, happiness, wholeness, and love, because everyone around us deserves to enjoy the best of who we are. Become unchained from this memory by choosing forgiveness so that what happened to us then will never, ever affect us again. Much love from your soul. All right, so you get the idea, guys. This is really about what we're doing in our own self, in our own life. We don't have to say this forgiveness. Let me just set up the whole stage here. We don't have to say, I forgive you to the other person. I mean, that would be great, but sometimes the other person's not even open to it, or you don't even have access to the other person. Sometimes you're forgiving God. Sometimes you're forgiving an event that was just a complete accident, and it's not like the other person did it or was at fault necessarily, or because of it was a legitimate accident. Sometimes it's a crime. And that's true. I have forgiven things that some people would say I should never forgive. And actually people think that there are rules where there's certain things that you should never forgive, like a rape or a murder of your child or whatever it is. And I can imagine the pain that I can only imagine it slightly because I've never lost a child. I've tried to tap in once to someone very close to me that just lost their child, and it blew me away. I couldn't even handle it for more than an hour. So I'm not here to judge anyone for not forgiving because it's just too painful to forgive. I'm here to talk about forgiveness because I do know, because I came here as a child already knowing this. And then it was verified to me and validated to me through many, many chains and many, many ways that we ultimately will heal faster the moment that we decide to forgive. And that doesn't mean we are forgiving automatically. We could be just saying, okay, I know this is the best thing for me, but I don't know how, or I can't, but I want to try. And then boom, right then and there, it starts the process. And it's not even like you have to know anything, because the soul sort of takes over, and that higher power, if it's God for you, great. Then whoever your higher power is, there's this whole goodness and love attached to it that fortifies you and lifts you and takes you forward and helps you to see ways that you can do it. Some people actually want to hold on to anger and unforgiveness because they believe it gives them power. And I can understand that, because anger gives me power, because I feel like if I stayed angry, then no one can take advantage of me again, or they can't hurt me again. So that's legitimate too. But the problem is that when we're sitting in that unforgiveness and anger, it eats away, it goes inside, it eats away at us. It also chips away at our persona and makes us a completely different person. And so it's just not healthy for ourselves and our life to hold on to that. So how do we start the process? Just by willing it or wanting it. And we keep it going by consistently asking to let go. I know of some people who wanted to hold on anger because they lost someone at the fault of someone else. And the only way to hold on to the person they lost was through the anger and unforgiveness. It sort of connected them to this person. So that's tragic. Imagine being attached to someone through a really horrendous emotion, instead of just being attached with the love and nothing else, and soul to soul. So when I coach people and they come to me and I say, I can't forgive my husband for cheating on me, or I can't forgive my ex-wife for taking away my kids, I feel their pain. I'm not sitting here telling them, you have to forgive. Instead, they probably wouldn't be coming to me or even talking to me unless there was a part of them that was already trying or already there to the point where they are open to hearing. And so it just really goes out in prayer. Like, what would it take for you to be able to let go of this? When do you think it would be appropriate? How do you want to live the rest of your life? Like, those are the questions that we talk about. Like, do you want the anger? Does it help you? And if it does help you, can we change it? Can we manipulate it into something that we can actually use? There's all sorts of ways that we can manipulate our own energy. And positive manipulation is one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight. Because when we are able to take something as tragic as a loss or a betrayal or an anger about something that's going on in our lives, loss of a job, guys, divorce, whatever it is, when we're able to take the really difficult, powerful, we'll call it negative, but very human energy, and emotion, and we're changing it into something that can actually help us, then that power translates to more power. It just goes from something that didn't feel good at all to something that could feel really, really good. And that knowledge makes people feel really good, because sometimes if they were to turn off the anger, they might not feel anything at all. I mean, we turn numb when we're really hurt. We regress sometimes. We don't even want to face the world again. We could be that fearful, or we could just be that angry that if we faced it, it would blow us away. Anger is repressed emotion, so that's depression and repression. So perhaps we're not in tune, and whatever, even thinking about forgiveness just makes us so angry, and we don't even want to go there because it's too painful to go back to an event, just to relive it. All legitimate stuff, guys, completely legitimate. People say that you can't forgive immediately. You have to be able to go through the process of anger and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Well, we can go through it and immediately forgive. I mean, we can forgive first, so it makes the rest of it easier. And you're a human being who's allowed to do whatever you want, but there are no rules. So the second that you don't want to hate someone or be angry at someone anymore, or you just want to forgive and be peaceful, you can do it. But that doesn't mean you can't do it immediately. It doesn't mean that you can't work towards the goal of forgiving before you even have to forgive. And I think that, as I said before, I came here to this earth in this body knowing that, because I had not even understood what forgiveness meant. I'd already unconditionally loved people who hurt me from when I was a child all the way through. I can stay angry at certain things, but the bigger the relationship I have with someone, meaning the deeper or the closer, or if it's a relative or a friend, the closer I am with them, the more intense, the pain is connected to them, but the faster I realize forgiveness. I mean, I used to say I'm Italian, like I could fight with you and then all of a sudden I could be kissing you on the mouth. It doesn't matter to me, like I don't hold a grudge. But there's times when I've been angry enough at what somebody did or hurt enough where I don't want to be around them, but it doesn't mean I can't forgive them and then eventually work towards being strong enough to be around them again. Okay. And in the past, there's been a lot more anger. Like someone would do something and maybe I'd be angry for months, or weeks. And then I learned that the faster you get over the anger and you take responsibility for your participation, even though the other person hurt you, they're still your part. Even if all you did was attract that person into your life or believe them, or, maybe disregard your gut feelings. And then they were able to take advantage of you, or just understanding. And this is the big one. This one saved my life a couple of times. Recognizing that we might have signed up for that. In other words, at some point in our lives or in our soul path, we came here and made some kind of contract potentially to live out some of the things that we're doing so that we can learn and grow. And so when that explanation, was said to me years ago, I pondered on it. I was like, I can't imagine anybody signing on for this life because it was just, there's too much stuff to deal with. But then I realized, flip that around. Wow. I really wanted the challenges. I really wanted to grow. If the case is that we do sign a contract coming here and we do know what life we're going to be living, and there's a potential for that, right? Then I'm going to do the best I can. And I'm going to realize that everybody else is also living their best life or living through their soul contract. And maybe this was a part of this process. And maybe, forgiving them, okay, is giving them an opportunity to grow forward and never do that again. Maybe not. It doesn't matter though, because even if I forgive myself and forgive them and forgive this whole incident, then that means I get to be stronger and I get to learn from this issue and I don't have to go through anything like this again. That's what I think about it as. And it started like that. It started where it was a little bit selfish and selfless at the same time. And that's okay because we're both. We're human and we're soul. And the soul's always going to be selfless. And the ego is going to want to be selfish. So that's where we have the challenge, where we need to manipulate out of that instinct that we have from a human standpoint and go into the soul and what the soul would, profess to want. And that, I believe, is the bigger picture part of us who knows long term, first of all, why we're here, what we're doing, what we're learning, blah, 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 blah. It's sort of like our internal teacher or internal guide or internal knowingness that this is a good thing that's happening, even though it feels so damn bad, All right, so let me come on and see if we have everybody to say hello. Deacon John Francis says, forgiving takes so much less energy than holding a grudge. Why don't people get that? Deacon, why don't people get that? It takes an enormous amount of energy, and it also, negative energy works against us. It tears us down. It hurts our body, could hurt our organs, potentially lead to disease. I know for people in my life that I've been connected to, cancer and all kinds of other diseases. And I'm not going to say it's their fault for getting any of these. Don't get me wrong, because every disease is the perfect storm. But there were people that I know that once they forgave and once they really looked at their past, they were able to heal from things faster. They would definitely be able to move forward in their life and work on their inner issues and release anything that was negative. Because don't forget, it's very hard to heal the body if we're filled with anger or we're filled with a negative emotion. Even if we feel it's legitimate, even if we feel we didn't do anything to deserve it, that doesn't really matter because it's still negativity that's sitting in our body. What do our cells know from the difference between, a legitimate anger and once love goes in though, then we get to be stronger and in more power. And it becomes our decision to say, I'm using this anger now to do good, to turn this around. And maybe you'll write this person a letter. Maybe you'll be able to talk to them and tell them what this did to you and be able to change their behavior going forward. Or not that you're changing the behavior, but by what you said, they will change their behavior. Maybe you can get a law passed, okay? Maybe you're heading off a disease in your own body, that's festering. So we don't really know right now in science and medicine. We get it, we have an inkling, but we don't know how much cancer relates to anger. There was a lot of doctors across the world that were studying it because they saw that anger emotion was metastasizing cancer cells. So I don't know all the research, so I don't want to come on here as any kind of expert or anything like that, but it makes sense. It totally makes sense. And cancer is an autoimmune disease. So what I have, Crohn's, that's an autoimmune disease. And I really believe the body fighting itself has something to do with our emotional state. And they're saying that there's no physical cause to autoimmune disease. They can't find a physical cause to why our body fights itself. So if that's the case, then is there a potential that there's really something emotional that could be going on that gets hold of us on a cellular level and then runs amok in wherever we have a weakness in our body? Add to that whatever food we're eating or our mental state of mind, and boom, we have a perfect storm: physical, emotional, mental, lack of spiritual. Okay, so, and again, I'm not trying to blame people for any disease they're carrying, but what I say to myself is, this perfect storm, it developed in me. Okay, and if I can somehow take responsibility for something or some part that I had in this, even if I didn't know how or why or didn't do it on purpose, then isn't that a great thing? Because if I had a responsibility for getting myself into this, I can get myself out of this. I can take control of this, whatever is creating this issue, and I can literally get rid of it, okay, and heal out of it, heal from it. So when I understood some of what was going on in my body with anger and different emotions that I had, I worked on it. Some of the stuff was being angry at myself, okay, and unforgiving towards myself. I didn't know. I forgave everybody else, and I wasn't forgiving me for the trouble I was getting myself into, or the trouble I thought I created for myself in my own life. Another reason why is when that person told me, Donna, you signed up for this. You created a contract before you even came here, and this is what you wanted to go through. And then that made me kind of lighten up. So it was sort of like in my control at one point or another. And if I'm supposed to come through some hardships so I can learn and grow and advance and become more aware, then wow, since I signed the contract already, I might as well do a good job. And that made it better for me and easier for me to want to forgive myself for my participation and where I got my life, where I got my body and everything else. So lots of things to understand about forgiveness, because it's very multi-pronged, but it attaches to everything. It's the key, I believe, to happiness and to self-love and to peace. Okay? And I'll challenge anybody on that. Anybody. All right. So we have lots of people coming on and saying hello. I'm very happy to see everybody. Joyce Feist says, why would you want to be around anyone that you can't trust? Of course you don't, but sometimes you don't have a choice, do you? Sometimes it's you're a child living with a parent that you can't trust. You're in a divorce situation with your parents, and one parent's talking about the other. You're not emancipated, and you got to deal with it. So what are you going to do? You're going to allow it to chip away at you? Even some 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds that I coach, deal with all this stuff going on in their home, and I have to help them come to a point where they can see where they can forgive. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, because it's basically when we allow ourselves to see the other person's soul and understand how the human self could have gotten themselves in trouble, then it makes it easier to forgive. So we're going to talk about that. But sometimes we have to forgive somebody at work, an ex-partner, or a sibling. Oh my gosh, right? All the time I hear the stories about sibling warfare. So yeah, there's oftentimes when we will have to be there, or maybe it's a marriage and one of the spouses strayed, or they spent money without the other spouse knowing, and they don't want to divorce. They have to try to find a way to trust each other, and they want to try to save the marriage or bring the marriage back together. And my gosh, I have so much respect for people who want to do that, because it's the ultimate form of unconditional love when you recognize that your partner may have failed himself or herself, and you want to give them another, chance at making it up to you or proving that they're trustworthy again. So I actually did a show on this recently with a friend who works with betrayal, and she's an expert at it, actually has her PhD. And we were talking about that, and she had said how the other person who does us wrong, we shouldn't take that to heart, because it was their issue that they did this, that they did it to us. And we shouldn't have to take, I don't know if she used the word ownership, and she said it way more eloquently than me. Please understand that I'm not able to really capture exactly what she said, but intimating that other people are doing something to us, it's not necessarily, for us to take fault or blame for that. And I totally get no fault or blame. I'm always about no fault or blame. It's always circumstances. But I immediately said, well, okay, but we still have to take responsibility for our participation, because in order to take the onus off the other person and understand better, we take the onus off the other person, you stop hating them and being angry with them and hurt by them. And you start looking at yourself and how things could have culminated to a certain degree. Let's take, for an example, a husband cheats on his wife. And I hear this all the time. And the man doesn't even realize, that he's attracted to somebody else. He didn't go out to have an affair, but he recognized that in himself he has some deficits going on. He's not happy. And then he decides he has an affair. He gets attracted to somebody. And then the wife, okay, she doesn't know a thing. And all of a sudden he gets caught. And this is we know this, guys, right? This is a huge issue in a marriage. How can that woman ever trust? And trust for women is difficult as it is, because we talked about this, I think, a couple of weeks ago. Men are, a lot bigger than us. They're supposed to protect us. Let's face it. Society has it that way, whether it's right or wrong. I'm not going to speak to that, but it's just, that's the way it is. We were little girls. Our fathers took care of us. We grow up. We marry men. We expect them to take care of us. Fair or no fair, that's what's going on. So when the man deceives us, oh my gosh, when they lie to us, it's so hard for us to feel like calm again, to feel peaceful, to be able to be a woman. We almost feel like we have to defend ourselves and become a warrior, right? So this is a tough thing going on. But then when I say to the woman, okay, back up, let's look at what you can look at in your life. Could you see the writing on the wall? Was there any part of you that was wondering about this? Were you just hit with the brick in the head? Or, can you assess? Can you look back? Can you take the onus off of him for a minute? Not to blame yourself for anything, but just see how the circumstances could have led to this. And every single time we do this in a loving way, in a peaceful, loving way, the woman or the man, whoever I'm coaching, will automatically be able to see something that went on, even if it was something as simple as, I gave way too much away of myself. I enabled everybody to be able to live great lives while I took on all the loads and did all the cleaning and the laundry and the this and the running around and the this. And then I worked, and then I made money, and then I drove the kids everywhere. And I wasn't taking care of myself, and I was too tired to have sex all the time. And not only that, but I probably gave him way too much time in his hands to do what he wanted to do. I know this sounds crazy, but when you go back to you and realize that you betrayed yourself a little bit too, or that you allowed people to take advantage of you, that you lost your power, you can step back a little bit, look at the whole situation, look how human everybody is, including ourselves, and then say, you know what? I get it. I'm never letting that happen again. I'm never letting myself get to that point. And I'm going to stand ground now and make those demands in this relationship that I can't be the person who gets everything done, and I need equality, and I want to know that I can trust this man again, and I'm going to make it so that he's going to have to prove it to me. And guess what? If the spouse really wants to stay in that marriage and he or she is sincere, this will work, because they will spend the time to let the other person know there's trust, and the person who was betrayed has to at least give the benefit of the doubt. And I teach them how to be more in tune with their soul self and their intuition, so that they can feel and tell whether the person's lying or not, and they don't feel as vulnerable when they're filled with the soul voice. And then boom, it starts to move in a direction, and the forgiveness could start already, depending on the person and how much they are willing or wanting, or it could come and it can be worked out. And all it took was to just step back and take responsibility without blame. Did one person hurt the other person? Yes. Was one person maybe being selfish and doing what they want to do with their body? Yes. Is that person human? Absolutely yes. And when we come down to that and we realize that we fell in love with the soul, and the soul's capable of so much, but the human self, okay, got to that point where it wanted to do what it wanted to do, and it surrendered to that ego voice, then we can look at the two and say, okay, do I still love this person, and do I still believe in their soul, and will I give them the benefit of the doubt, and will I move forward with this in a loving way? Because if it's not going to be a loving way, you might as well not do it at all, to be honest. Because if you stay with someone and torture them for 10, 15 years, you're not doing yourself any favors, okay? If you're going to forgive, do it. Do it all the way. And let's see what happens. What if they cheated on you again? Would it blow you away? It blew you away the first time. It doesn't have to blow you away the second time. The second time it could be validation that you did everything you could and they still did what they were going to do, right? And that means you get to go. So the point is that we have to more relax in the soul, relax in that higher knowing. If God's your person, divine being, put it in God's hands. And I always ask for truth. So if someone I feel lies to me or hurts me in a certain way, I immediately ask for truth usually when I meet people now. But let's talk about the past when I wasn't really doing this as a habit. When I ask for truth about this person to be revealed, and I'm praying it hard and I'm saying I'm open to hearing it, I get truth so fast about what this other person is about. They'll say things that will blow my mind. Like they can't even hide their crap. It just comes right out. It's so beautiful. And I'll tell you how it works and why it works. I am desiring the best life I can live. I'm desiring to be as strong and powerful as I can, irrespective of my own crap that I get myself into. I'm trying to be stronger. I'm trying to do good and be good because I really want to affect positive change. I have really beautiful goals and I have very strong motives. And so I have a lot of divine energy behind me to do that, right? Because if you're always trying to be good, then you're going to be attached to goodness, right? And that's not to say that I don't screw up. It just means that the more I commit to that, the more power I have to create positive change, and the more power I have to be protected by the love I am actually trying to give out. When I'm in a weakened state, I get more of the same stuff coming at me. But when I'm in a power state of love, I give that off, I attract more of it. So anything that's not equal to that vibration is going to become very obvious. Now, with that said, I'm still a human being who wants to see the best in everybody, who wants to deal soul to soul. And I am helplessly seeing soul to soul every day, but I love that about me. I love that I can see your soul. But sometimes I can't see the ego side of somebody until it hits me in the head with a brick. So what I do now to protect myself is to say, show me truth about this relationship, not to judge the person. It's not about that, but it is so that I could head off any kind of issue or any kind of wasting time or anything that would create issue for me, my life, my money, my friend, whatever, my persona. And it works because, like I said, the other person shows their true colors really quick. I mean, sometimes I can end business relationships like this because I've asked for truth, and in the first meeting I get information and I say, okay, this is not the kind of person I want to do business with. So we could want something really bad. We could really, really want a relationship to work, and maybe we won't see truth right away. We'll hear things. Our gut will kind of turn a little bit, and we're like, ooh, that doesn't sound right. We may dismiss it, put it in the back of our head so we can give the person the benefit of the doubt. Maybe the next week we'll hear something else. Week after, we keep ignoring it. All of a sudden, we get hurt. Now we're in a position where we have to forgive. Well, you know what? I don't want to be in a position where I have to be betrayed or hurt by someone. I'd rather head it off. I have a really powerful inner knowing, and so do you, and so does everybody out there. So why not use that and use the power of God and intuition and soul to head off reasons why we need to worry about forgiveness? And we can start out knowing that everybody's human, and then just go and try to engage with people who are in the same kind of awareness level as we are, as far as what we want to be in our lives and how we want to treat each other and what we want to do and how we want to grow and where we, that kind of thing. So I think it's hanging around someone isn't really the issue. It's more like the more power of love I bring out of myself, the more people like that are going to be attracted to me and vice versa. And the more I'll be engaging on that level, the less time and the less space there will be for stuff that's not in that, that level of love. And so if someone's around me that I know I can't trust because of the past, I could give them benefit of doubt, and I can honestly say to myself, I'm not going to allow for anyone to chip away at me or my peace, but I'm going to love them anyway, and I'm going to pour in the love because I might be the best example they have in a day to what we can reach as far as our integrity level. Not to say that I'm the perfect person. I'm not trying to say that. Just wanting to be good and do good, though, kind of puts me and a lot of people who like me, that puts us in a different category than someone who's actually just trying to survive and doesn't make this kind of intention in the morning, which is fine. That's very human and very allowable and everything else. Or actually someone who's getting up in the morning to see who they can take advantage of. Okay, so let's say that there is any one of us can be in any one of those categories in a day, even. Okay, I'm not going to say that I hold on to goodness every minute of the day. I can't. I'm not there. I'm trying to get there, and I think that says a lot for all of you who watch me and all of you who engage with me. I know you're the same way. We're just trying, and which means we're going to fail. I don't know, a lot. And I shouldn't even say fail, because it's not really a failure to be human. We're made human, right? So let's forget that word. We're made human, which means we've been set up from the beginning. And it's hard to fail at being human, right? Because we are. So basically, just wanting to be good and do good, starting out in the morning with that intention, or starting your day out with that intention, and moving forward with that, even when you lose it for a moment, if you can come back to the intention, you're still better off than the person who never made the intention. So even if you're screwing up 5 times in a day, or you curse, or you're yelling at somebody, and you can't hold on to the love, and you can't bring the forgiveness up fast enough, or whatever, then just coming back to that intention every single time and saying to yourself, okay, I'm aware of this now. I really don't want to have to go through that again. I really don't want to have to manipulate out of every emotion. I really want to always feel calm and peaceful. Show me how to do it. Just show me the ways. That actually is positive manipulation process, and that will lead and guide you, because what happens is when you make that intention to be good, the goodness aspect of you, that soul, and the goodness aspect of the energy we're living in, this, we want to call it the universe or whatever, and God, then that's actually supporting you and guiding you and able to show you things that are not exactly healthy in your system, or that are keeping you from being the best and most positive you can be. So when I started on this journey years ago, oh my gosh, I started uncovering all kinds of trauma in my childhood that were creating fear in me and anger. And a lot of times when people are in fear, they turn into anger. Just like when you see a cat is scared, they get here, the fangs and the claws and the hair goes up and everything else. Well, we do that too. And I think I'm basically maybe an anger person even though I do try to come from the heart. I think my gut and my anger is more powerful sometimes, and had been, because I think I had to become that to protect myself when I was younger. So the manipulation process for me was trying to bring in the heart all the time. And then I would bring in so much heart, I was giving so much away that I was ignoring my gut. So now I'm like, all right, what do I need to do here? And I realized, okay, I need to think about things more before I give of the heart. And when I feel the gut, I have to step back. Instead of do something, I just have to ask for truth, and then allow that truth to come in, and use a little bit more emotional IQ to deal with that. use a little bit more head to deal with that rather than always giving of the heart or ignoring my own gut. And ignoring my own gut, I'm sure it gave me Crohn's, okay? I'm going to admit to my condition and what I did to myself. I may have always had a weakness in my belly area from the time I was a child, but it developed into Crohn's after quite a few really traumatic events in my life with relationships. And I really did ignore my gut, and I did ignore that little voice inside me that says, you're not taking care of you. And so basically, my gut stopped working for me. And now I'm actually grateful for that. And I don't hold any negativity towards anybody in my family or in my life or any men in my life for that, because I'm the one who literally ignored myself. But going through the process made me so powerful. And I finally did address so much of what went on in my life in the past that I was able to heal from. And then from healing from that, I got rid of a lot of anger, and I was able to love more and listen to my gut more. So even without a large intestines, I'm listening to my gut more than ever. So it's all been good, you know? And I think when it comes to love and forgiveness, when we reach that point where we can say, wow, I really learned from that. Like, because of that incident, I now have this feeling inside of me. I grew exponentially because of it. You don't get there, and you don't get that emotion and feeling. And everybody who's been through this knows it. You don't get there until you have the love and forgiveness, until you're able to say, yeah, I'm willing. And then you go through the process of allowance and getting there. And then you have an intense energy that's so powerful, it blows you away in goodness. It just makes you so happy and so released and free from any negativity. All right, so let's see if we have anybody coming on with comments. Steve Pollett says, we always have a choice, and I don't buy into a predetermined contract. Okay, that's fair. I like the idea. We know that our energy doesn't die. We're all water molecules, and we go somewhere. I myself have had incidents with souls, and so I know for myself that I'm not a psychic medium, but I definitely have had dead people talk to me in a profound way. And I've had relatives come to me in dreams. And so I know that we're still here. We're still here in some kind of energy form. And so the idea that we can make a contract to come back here or whatever, why not? We don't know. It doesn't matter whether you buy into it or not. It depends on each person buying into it and what they think. And I think I said the story because it made me feel good to know that at one time I signed up for this crazy life that I'm living. And so I wasn't like a victim anymore. I may have actually been my own champion, saying, you know what? This life that you're coming into, you can do this. You can grow and you can become, you know, your best self through this life and through these challenges. And if we don't have challenges, if we don't have any challenges, how do we know how far we can go? How do we know how we can rise? How do we know what we're capable of unless we have those issues to deal with? So it makes sense in a way that you sort of sign up, and maybe you don't call it a contract if you don't want to, but to jump back into a body down here and say, hey, you know, I'm going to grow this time. I'm going to really do it right. I don't think there's anything crazy about that, to be honest, especially when you know quantum science and you start understanding how we're made and energy and everything else. It actually is kind of a cool thing to think about. Makes you feel like less of a victim, and that's what makes me happy. Charlie Bauer says, so enlightened you are, Donna. I guarantee you I'm not even at 10%. And but thank you for that. But I really feel like sometimes it's still such a challenge to be able to completely, you know, be in that state. They call it the fifth dimension, where you're feeling love and goodness all the time. I'd love to be there. I was there a couple of times in my life, and one time in particular that I'll never forget. And I know there is such a thing as a fifth dimension because of that day. It was almost as if I was being shown that day to know what I was going to be working towards. And in case anyone doesn't understand what that means, I was hearing in my head that day, peace on earth, all the different meanings for nirvana, okay? And I was hearing nirvana too. And I didn't know what was going on. But I had brought on such unconditional love for somebody, and that hurt me very badly. And I happened to run into that person, believe it or not, of all places, on a hiking trail, and spent an hour with that person just loving him and just being in that state of forgiveness and knowing that God was so behind it, because it was so serendipitous how we met on that trail. And it was the most beautiful day I've ever had in my entire life. And I know it was brought on by true love, unconditional love and forgiveness. I just know it. I don't want to tell you the whole entire story. It would take too long, but you have to take my word for it. This was what it was about. And the rest of the day, every single color looked amazing. I was outside. The weather was, I can feel the beauty of everything. It was like I felt the beauty in people, and people reacting to me as if I was like the most amazing person on earth. It was so inexplicable. You can't explain what this feels like because it's above and beyond, and I barely can tap into it now because I haven't been there more than, that day, and a few minutes here and there potentially. But when I came home from this, I kept hearing words in my head, and it led me to read Don Miguel Ruiz in one of his books, I guess The Fourth Agreement, and he has spoken about it. He actually wrote in his book about this state of being, that he went into it and then he couldn't get back there again, and partially because he was afraid. He was afraid if he was in this space of nirvana or the fifth dimension, that he would be there alone and nobody would be there with him. Everybody would be back in the third dimension. And so I felt the same way. I was like, what would I need to give up to get to that fifth dimension? How would I need to act every day? Would I be able to be angry at all? Would I be able to get Botox? This is the stuff that I was saying to myself, like, where the fifth dimension, like, would I have any friends there? It's still so silly. This is quite a few years ago that I was saying this. And I have since then realized that fifth dimension is among everybody. We're all here, and it's a place that you reach when you can bring on so much love and overcome so much of that human self, that you're in a space of exactly what I said: pure love, gratitude, compassion. It's like you're feeling all of them simultaneously, and it heightens every single part of you. Now, let me ask you a question. Could you possibly get there if you were not forgiving somebody, or forgiving of an event in your past, or forgiving of people in your life, or whatever? Could you get there if you were holding on to any kind of negativity? No. And so I know this. Maybe if someone hasn't ever experienced nirvana or peace on earth, or whatever you want to call it, fifth dimension, then you wouldn't know what you're missing. That's a given. But the reason why I'm telling you about it, and the reason why I believe I was put there even for a day, is because I believe I'm teaching the path that we can be on to ultimate happiness, peace, and love. Because if we were doing this on a daily basis, and listen, there's a lot to be forgiving in this world right now, right? I mean, we can't even go on Facebook without having an issue to forgive somebody because we're getting trashed or whatever, wherever's going on, or we're having tits and tats back and forth with people, or we're at work, or even on the expressway, okay? But the point is that, all these events pop us back out of soul and bring us to just being very strictly human. And our challenge is to say no to that ego and yes to the soul, and, pop back in, or get ourselves so healthy, become more our authentic self. Just like a baby, as babies, we were loving, we were pure, we didn't hold grudges. We might have cried because we needed to be changed or we needed to be fed, but it wasn't because we didn't love you. It was because we just needed to be changed or fed. In fact, it takes a lot for a child to stop loving their parent, even if they beat them. Look at it as a dog and its owner. That's the way we are. We're automatically forgiving. And of course, when we're young, we can't protect ourselves, but when we're older, we can. We can put up our force field, but it has to be love, because if it's love, then it shares love inside that sphere. If it's not love, we just put a force field up, we can't get anything in. We can keep stuff out, but we can't bring anything in. So it doesn't behoove us to do that. We need to have the force field that's coming out of us be love. We need to be vulnerable in that state of vulnerability, and believe in the power that we have to generate love that pushes outside of ourselves, so that what we mix with and entangles with everybody else is going to just be love. If they start coming at us with a negativity, boom, it can't affect us unless we allow it to. Very hard to do. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's better than being hurt all the time. And so when we get to that place where we're in that fifth dimension of living, where we know we can hold on to it days at a time or weeks at a time or whatever, we become so much stronger than the negativity that's around us. And so that's where I know I want to go in my life. And I think that many people who want to be good, do good, and be the best they can be are already saying this. And all of you interact with me on Facebook all the time. Maybe you don't even know this next step. Maybe I'm just telling you for the first time, or maybe you've been there yourself and you can share that with me. But this is probably your knowingness, the same knowingness that you have, that you're working towards something, you're striving towards this, either in this lifetime or another lifetime or whatever. And it's making you feel good to be on this journey, even though it's tough, even though it's sometimes difficult. But again, I love what he said. Gene Rank said it's easier to forgive than, oh, no, I'm sorry, Gene. I passed them. Whoever said it before. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, someone says it's easier to be forgiving than it is to hold a grudge. And that's what I meant by that. Okay, so Gene Rank, Genevieve says it's easier to forgive than forget. Totally agree with that. I don't think we should forget. I think we should rewrite it. And what I mean by that is that I go back in the past, and when I look at my participation in it, and I decide to love the person unconditionally, and I go into prayer and meditation, within hours, sometimes days, I'm giving granted information about why this other person did what they did. And it changes the dynamics of what went on. And suddenly I'm not perceiving it in the same way. And that doesn't mean I'm lying to myself, because don't forget, we perceive something one way when we're in that state of shock or hurt or whatever. And then later on, hopefully we can unravel from that and look from a place from the soul, and we can assess it differently and put a different label on it if we want, maybe growth experience or a time to become more aware. Or maybe we can even be thankful for it. Sometimes, especially in the case of divorce, I always tell somebody who didn't want their divorce, but their spouse wanted it. And I say to them, isn't it better to know when your spouse doesn't want you, that you get out and you now can live a life where you can meet someone who actually will want you, that you can have a reciprocal relationship with? Because some people, they want to rewrite the past to say that they want what they want from someone else, but they're not willing to rewrite the past to say, well, if they didn't want me, okay, I want to move forward on my own and in a beautiful state of being. So it's really, really hard to do this when someone dies or someone is murdered or someone is killed by the hand of another. And this is where forgiveness gets so, so hard, because you can't rewrite a death. But when you come through the process and you realize that not forgiving is keeping the pain even maybe becoming worse, there's a certain point in your healing process where it can go one way or the other. And you make that decision at that point. Do I hold on to this forever, or do I go forward clean of this? And a lot of people at that point is when they realize that they can do something really wonderful for the rest of the world or for others if they were to become whole and strong dealing with maybe their child's death or whatever, and they'll go on and to write a bill, or they'll go on to help others in situations like this, or they'll start a not-for-profit in their loved one's name. Whatever it is that they do, they make that switch and become powerful because of it, and maybe do things that they never thought they would ever do. And that's how they deal with this death, or with this, this horror in their life, this really painful aspect. So there's all different points of the forgiveness, and the forgetting part is probably the harder part to do, believe it or not, because the memories that we keep, if they are bad memories, it sparks the anger again, and then you go back to a state where you may be not forgiving. So what happens is you could do one or the other first. What I always do is start with, how can I see my participation? And how can I love this person unconditionally, even though they hurt me? Just by loving them unconditionally, especially if it's someone you did love, you're able to really tap into what actually happened. You can find out where they were at, their state of mind. And I'm not saying that you will always find out the truth from this person. It might come from that person, but it might come from somewhere else. It might come into your head in a dream. It might come into your head in a book that you're reading. It might actually come into your head during meditation. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I never thought of that before. When you see the other person's perspective from a truthful standpoint, where you're not slanting it with your own hurt or pain, you really get to see how human people really are, and where they're coming from and their brokenness. And then it sort of makes it easier to forgive them and forget them. So that's really important to do. All right. Charlie Bauer says, trying, you are strong, Donna. Thank you for that. I love you guys. I really do. It's always trying, right? Every day we try. And maybe the doing part is actually just keep asking every day, right? Because you could give up and just say, screw this, I'm just going to be an angry bitch for the rest of my life, because everybody deserves that. Or you can say, everybody deserves Donna, myself, obviously, to be the best I can be. And unless I strive for that, I won't be able to affect more positive change. And I know that's why I'm here. I know that I'm supposed to be doing this work. And I've stayed true to that for over 20-something years. So I can't even imagine doing anything else. Tammy says, taking personal accountability is the only way we can grow. It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. And it's not about taking the onus off of them to make them free of guilt or whatever, or free of, sorry, not guilt, free of culpability. You know, they have to deal with their own maker and their own issues, and going forward, their own karma, whatever you want to call it. That's their stuff. And they might have lost you forever. And that'd be the biggest loss to them, because they dishonored you, or they did something to you, or betrayed you, or just, something hurt you. A lot of times where I've had people hurt me when I was younger, I was able to shut off the love. I mean, it was like a door that closed, and I noticed the difference in the other person. They were all of a sudden, they were so upset that they couldn't have me where they needed me or wanted me. And I realized that that was self-protection, and I still forgave them, but I wasn't able to love them in that space. That sounds weird, but I wasn't able to get past my fear of them. So once I realized that love protects us better than fear, obviously, then I would pour on the love, and then boom, the person would start treating me differently. They would actually act nicer to me, and they would be calmer about it. And so I realized that I'm not doing anybody any favors by shutting myself off. And even if someone hurt me, I don't want them to hurt someone else. I'd rather love them unconditionally, pray for them, and resolve whatever is between us, even if it's only spiritually and through God, so that maybe they'll be cleared of this going forward, and they don't have to live with this muck, go in the future and put any of this hurt and pain on someone else, right? Especially true when it's our former spouse, because guess who has to deal with that? It's our children. So the idea that we want to see the other person healthy, no matter what, for the sake of our kids, that's one of the most important things we can do. And that alone brings on I don't even tell you how powerful you become in love for that. Renee says, hi, Dee, right on. Last week I was with the Bruderhof group, whose mission is to teach the power of reconciliation. Oh, that's cool. They organized large-scale youth meetings, sharing personal stories where the act of forgiving mitigated the cancer of hatred, setting the stage for positive change in their lives. It's called Breaking the Cycle. Love that. I want them on my radio show. That would be awesome. Renee, you got to tell me more about that when I talk to you. Well, maybe tomorrow we can chat about it, because I really love to find out how they do that, and maybe I can help them in some way. That's really, really good. Ron Tony Giordano says, love you. Love you back. Thank you for that. And Barbara Sill, hello. Everybody that's on here, Thank you for coming on. It's already 7:55. I can't believe I talked for an hour. I'm so sorry I didn't get more questions in. Capel says, relationship like a violin, and now the music may stop and strings attached always forever. Remember that forever. Okay. So we're like a violin, and then when we love each other, it's like the strings, and that we're bound together, but we also make music together. That sounds pretty. I think that was a translation issue, but I think I did it. Gregory William, you're pretty close to perfect. Gregory, you haven't spent more than 10 minutes with me. You don't know. You can't say that. Trust me. I'll just be honest with you, okay, that it's not true. Steve Berger says, doing that now. I'm hoping you mean for translating the past and retranslating it into what's usable for you. Tammy says, I do believe many people are reliving whatever one needs to get through or over from one's own past. We are. We're living our lives. Sometimes we don't get out of a drama cycle. And we'll bring in the same incidences over and over and over again and get hurt over and over and over again. I recently said to my practitioner, my coach, I'm like, listen, I can't even get a good haircut. I said, there's something going on here because I'm telling the hairdresser for 20 minutes what not to do. And that's exactly what he did. I said, so there's something wrong. And I told him about 2 other incidents that were going on in my life that I knew were not right. You know, there's something something just not, I can't say copacetic, right? So he and I sat, and long story short, I wasn't in my power for whatever reason. He says, you know, I turned on your heart for you. He goes, because he did. He worked on me for issues that I had from my childhood, and we opened my heart chakra so much to give so much love. He goes, you're giving it all away, and nothing's coming back. He said, I don't know how that happened, but let's just stop doing that now. So he worked on me. He does NAET and quite a few other things, and acupuncture and stuff. And of course, I did my own prayer and meditation, and just trying to come back to that point where I am not constantly attracting the same kind of thing over and over again. And now it's not horrible stuff, okay? Some of it wasn't good. The haircut was the least of it. Other things that I needed to get beyond, because I need to get to a place where I'm beyond any of this lack of power. If I want to get out there to more people, if I want to get out there to support myself, I have to really come back to being Donna Martini again in a way that's makes sense. So I had talked, I think it was last week, about Martin Luther King bringing on, he was righteous, you know, where he knew what was wrong, what was going on in the world, but he brought on the love, and that's why he had so many people following him and so many people listening to him. So maybe I had anger before, so I had that, and now I have love now, and I'm pushing away the anger, but I'm not bringing the two together, because together they're gonna give me power, because you need to have anger in order to see what's wrong, in order to judge things as right or wrong, not people, but stuff, and in order to move forward with some kind of movement, like what Martin Luther King did. So it's not good to give away stuff. It's better to have all of it, but be healthy in the state and manipulate. If it's anger, it has to be without judgment. You have to get to the love right away, but you still could be angry about a situation and rise up to do what you need to do. So I'm learning the balance, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I mean, I'm earnest about it. I'm trying every single day, and I'm doing the best I can. But I think that what Tammy said is so legitimate. If we keep saying that person did that to me and that person did that to me, and if I said every single hairdresser sucks, instead of realizing that I'm getting the opposite of what I want every time I go out, it's not the hairdressers, it's me. Okay, it's totally me. The poor hairdresser's probably, you know, not even realizing what's going on, and they can't do their job because I'm not coming to them in my own state of power, where I can legitimately get the haircut that I want, you know. And I know that sounds really silly, right? It sounds ridiculous, but it's so true. And we do this when we're at work. We want a raise, we want a promotion, and our boss won't give it to us because they're not feeling our power. And we're blaming them for not feeling our power and giving us the job. Or we're blaming them for not allowing us to reach our goals. But really, we're responsible for our goals. If we're looking to get our goals met through a certain aspect of our job or a certain person, that might not be the path. And we have to recognize that. And maybe we have to step out. So it's always about us. And that's a good thing, because if it's always about us, we get to always change everything. We don't have to sit in crap and deal with it. We can literally say, what's my part in this? What's my participation? How do these circumstances create this issue? What can I change? What's going on in my body? What's going on in my mind, my emotions, my subconscious? Everything that's going on in our subconscious is attracting. It's walking us forward into our life and attracting something. Okay, so that something is a sign of what's going on inside of you that maybe you're not aware of. So be happy to see stuff going on that's sort of like, can correlate. Like we can string together and realize, okay, there's some commonalities here that I can look at, and maybe I can change. Something about myself that I can change so I can be powerful, strong, and get everything I want. Wouldn't you want to know that? Wouldn't you want to address that? Or do you want to blame everybody else for what's not happening in your life? So that's really what it comes down to. So Tommy says, this is one reason that's given me the depth of understanding others and allow me to not hold to any anger. In fact, it's made me extremely compassionate. And that's the truth. When we pull back, and as I said, take the onus off the other person for what they did, okay? Meaning that we take, when I say onus, do I mean onus? Yeah, because basically is always a combined energy. Even in my marriage, where I thought years ago, he did so many things so bad to me, and I wanted to blame him more. Like he was 70% responsible and I was only 30, or he was 80 and I was trying to make and I was told, no. I could hear it in my head. No. And I wasn't willing to face it. And then after a while, I finally was able to say, what was my part in this? And it was even attracting this in the first place, even attracting someone who couldn't love me or couldn't give me reciprocal love. That was me. And maybe because I was young, maybe it was because I didn't know better, maybe because I had issues when I was a child, and so I didn't understand balance and reciprocity. And it's all legitimate and it's all okay. So I took the onus off of him right away and realized he was just living his life the way he could live it. And he had his own issues, and it showed me his childhood and all of it started to become clear. And I didn't hate him ever anyway, but it made me feel so much better about my past, about the marriage, it took away so much pain. And when I compare it now to sitting he did 80 and I did 20, I laugh, because that was, all right, so yeah, I was a kid when I was saying it, I was very young, but still, it was so ignorant. It was just not right. And there was no awareness at all in my life at that point. But of course, I got led to there, even though I was ignoring it. I got led to there finally, because I was asking to be better and better and better. I was asking to be a better mother, better person, better Donna. And so it led and guided me. And eventually I accepted that it's all about circumstance. It's all about coming together and having this, karmic kind of partnership where you're trying to grow and you're trying to evolve, or you're not growing and not evolving, but you're still with the person that you're supposed to be challenged by and do something with. So I know people are saying they don't want to believe that, and they want to hold on to negativity within themselves, and they want to hold on to anger. And I get it. I really do, because I was there too. But again, as much as it's okay for you to stay exactly where you want to stay, it's your prerogative. Please know that is not going to make you happy. So if you want to be happy, just say, I'm willing to try. I just want to be happy. And I'm willing to take it a day at a time. I'm willing to be open to this. I'm willing to see, what it would take towards forgiveness. All of this is legitimate. All of this verbiage will get you on that path. All this verbiage will lead you to happiness, and it's still your timing. But it only takes as long as we let it. So the faster that you try to do this, the easier it's going to be for you. Patricia Izzo says, why does anger turn into vindictiveness? Oh boy. Wow, I wish I had a therapist friend right now for this, because it might be a little out of my realm. I'm going to guess at part of it, because I can't be vindictive. I've never been vindictive. I am so the opposite of that. I'm not saying because I'm such a good person, it's nothing to do with that. When I'm done, I'm done. I don't even want to spend time, I don't want to be in a negative state where I'm doing something to somebody else to get back at them. It just doesn't feel right to me. But then maybe, okay, I answered my own question. Maybe I evolved to the point or became so aware of how much it does damage to myself, and people who are vindictive are in so much pain that they need to inflict pain on others, and they need to hold other people in that same state that they're in, and they don't have that awareness. They're not seeing their own soul. They're not hearing from their own soul. And maybe they feel that it's, I'm trying to pull in some intelligence and wisdom here. I lost it. Okay, I tried, but I lost it. Basically, that when I've seen it, especially in divorce situations, they think that that's a way to hold on to the other person in such a way that they can torment them, or pay them back for what was done to them. They feel like they are right in doing so, like they have a legitimate cause that they can do this, the permission almost, because they were hurt. So I don't know if I answered your question properly, but anger doesn't always turn off into vindictiveness, because we have legitimate reasons as a human beings to be angry at things. But the more awareness we realize, the more awareness we come into, and the more we evolve out of human self and into soul self, as far as driving our emotions, then the more we realize how human people can be, and the more forgiving we are for that humanness and those human acts, and for their level of an understanding of their soul self. So there's less anger, and then there's quicker forgiveness, And then the opposite is true. If you don't have that light and you're not evolving or becoming more aware of yourself, or if you're in a state of unhealth because you physically can't get there. There's a lot of people who are so twisted hormonally and everything else. It's not like they're bad people. Their bodies are a mess. And maybe they were so abused as children that they lost a part of themselves. They broke into two. They have like almost two or multiple personas, and they're just trying to survive. And it could be a physical addiction of hurting people. That's legitimate. I get high on doing certain good things for people. Why wouldn't we get high on doing bad things? It could come down to biochemistry. Bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, lots and lots of different labels we like to put on all kinds of things that are going on in the psyche. I guess there's so many reasons. I wouldn't say that we don't have possession issues, that someone is, holding on to negativity. Are there entities? I don't know. But certainly feels that way sometimes when people are just so not in tune with their soul, so disconnected. You wonder if there could be anything else going on, But all conjecture on my part as far as that goes. That's not part of what I delve into, and it's not something that I get downloads on. So I would leave that for somebody who really feels sure of it. I also don't do the research on that. Okay, Therese says, great question, betrayal. Okay, I don't know what the question was. I'm so sorry, but maybe you can write again. Gregory Williams is absolutely right, Donna. It's projected your own pain on another. Yep, absolutely, for sure. Okay, so Gregory is a therapist. Thank you. So basically, it's when anger turns to vindictiveness is when they're projecting their anger towards the other. They want the other person to be sitting in that same state. This got something you said too, Greg, that when you're in a state of anger and that kind of, there's got to be a jealousy when someone else can get on with their life and live and be happy. There's got to be a jealousy. They have to make the other person unhappy in order to live with that knowledge that they can move on. So that's where it's so hard in divorce. So hard. And I tried to plead with people only because maybe you can't stop your behavior for your ex-husband. But can you do it for your children? Can you get there for them? Because they're the ones who are suffering for it. And we see this so often. And we also see it with siblings too. And it affects the whole family, the parents, the children, the younger children. When the siblings do this to one another, it's always so painful. Patricia said, oh, spot on. Okay, so obviously we answered your questions. Frank says, you are so right, Donna. I miss you. I miss you too, Frank. So I can't see anything coming up in questions because my Facebook won't allow me to go past this, but like I always look at them afterwards, and if anybody has any questions, I definitely respond. And you can always reach out to me, message me. Thank you so much for joining tonight. It's 8:11, so it's really is time to go, and I so appreciate all of you. You have no idea. I am growing. I feel like I'm growing through you and with you and because of you. So if I didn't have an outlet like Facebook, how could I share all this message, right? Because I don't work for free. I don't work for money. I'm not out there or whatever in that way. This is a way that I can help myself grow and learn and see reaction. And my book is almost finished, by the way. Tomorrow I'm working with my editor, Kim, and I'm so excited because we should be really finishing up tomorrow, and soon that will mean I can submit it to a printer and get this darn book out there because it's been way too long. It's my mini book of mighty mantras, and so it will have lots and lots of daily reminders and things that we can do to keep ourselves in soul all the time, or as much as we can, and to get over our stuff and get over betrayal or whatever it takes. And also to come more into abundance. Because, I never really talk about that, but when we're sitting in our own state of power, we're attracting a lot of good stuff, including the money we need and everything else, okay? So hopefully we can talk about that soon, but again, that's not my expertise, so I'll have somebody on who has that as their expertise. How's that? All right, so thank you, everybody. Good night.